Welcome to discipline of Transcendental Basis Base of Vedic Knowledge. Today we are at Glimpse-3. We are to glimpse dynamic state of solar universe values format parallel to that of Dhatu part. Let us recapitulate that in glimpse 1 we have been glimpsing lively transcendental state prior to manifestation. As glimpse 2, our visit has been to Dwadas Jyotirlingam, and today in glimpse 3 we are face to face with dynamic state solar universe values format parallel to that of Dhatu part. Let us have a visit to the sheets book supplied today. In sheet 1, there is depiction of Srimad Bhagwad Gita flowchart. Here is the general format, and here is the flowchart of chapter 1, which is of 47 shlokas, and from the Bindu Sarovar there is a flow of 7 streams which ultimately flow as up till the 4th quarter, and there is a flow stream chart, this flow of 47 steps. Value 47 as such becomes the basic value which is to be availed for a flow from the Madhya, as 47 is equal to 19 plus 28, and 19 is the TCV value of formulation Madhya, while value 28 is TC value of formulation Brahm. So Madhya Brahm, which is at the center, at the middle. So eternity at the middle is the focus point. Then in this sheet, the second part is a flow chart of Samved Samhita. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there is a flow from Bindu Sarovar reaching up till the creators of space Kushupika, while in Samved there is a transcendence upward, and it is this transcendence upward which is giving us a flow chart. Therefore, we can have a Samved Samhita flow chart by having a transcendence from middle of the creator space, which is a seat of a transcendental Lord, and for Srimad Bhagavad Gita we can have a flow from the middle and we can reach up to the creators of space. We will be coming to it with this format of the processing steps of the Vedic systems. In sheet 2 and 3, there is a tabulation of the Dhatu part, how it flows in these steps 122, and with the further Kandav as well as the 41, we are having 2056 Dhatus flow chart. It is going to be in 123 steps. Therefore, one shall take up the Dhatu part Panani Upadesh in one's hands and then revisit this tabulation, as that first phase is only of a single Dhatu, Bhu, and then we have to sequentially reach at the entire range of 2056 Dhatus. This table becomes the basic table of the values, features and format of the Dhatu part. These are the values, features which ultimately go parallel to the dynamic state of our solar universe. Therefore, while we will be having a glimpse of, and while we will be face to face with the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Samved Samhitas as complementary and supplementary formats as of Divya Ganga flow through the Bindu Sarovar along the artifices of soul syllable Om, and also as a transcendence therefrom. It is this transcendence from the origin, from the transcendental seat within creator's state. It is this transcendence upward which makes Samveda, and it is a reach back up till the middle of the creator space as Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The second tabulation which we have to be face to face with is of a Dhatu part, its organization, the organization of 2056 Dhatus in 123 steps, and these steps as of 11 ganas, 10 plus 1, these ganas, and how this parallel to the 11 versions of Hypercube 5 parallel to 11 geometries range of the 5 space. Therefore, this table becomes the basic table of values and features in terms of which we will be going parallel to the dynamic state of our solar universe. At sheet 4, we are having a tabulation of the letters and the TCV values of Ganita Sutras 1 to 16, which leads to 283 letters and 1095 TCV value. In sheet 5, we are having a tabulation for 13 Upsutras, its letters, which come to be 236, and TCV value, which comes to be 958. We see that 283 plus 236 makes 519 letters. The entire text of Ganita Sutras and Ganita Upsutras are availing in all 519 letters. And this text as such leads us to €1.95 plus 958 is equal to 2053. Now, this is the transcendental values range, and here we know the dhatus are going to be 2056, and we know that it leads us to, if this is in the role of a dimension, then it will go to the role of an origin. The next step, let us have a focus upon these sample formulations. These sample formulations, first is Ek Shahistr leads to value 31. Shahistr Akash as well leads us to value 31. Anant Akash as well leads us to value 31. Asht Prakriti leads us to value 29. Vyavrat Brahm leads us to value. This is Vyavrat, means 7 plus 8 plus 7 plus 1 plus 2 plus 7. This comes to be 30. So here comes to the value 58. Likewise, Krishna Dopaya is the formulation which leads us to value 58. 58 we know is equal to 29 plus 29. This formulation, Krishna Dopaya, is the 28th transcendental designation of Vyas. Maharishi Vyas is having 28 names, 28 transcendental designations, and the last 28th designation is Krishna Dopaya, and it is of value 58, which is 29 plus 29, and further this formulation is of feature values equal to the Vyavrat Brahm. From here we see how these formulations are ultimately bringing us face to face with the compendium for the source reservoir formats of the values and features which are being availed, which are at work, in terms of which the dynamic state of solar universe is being changed by Vedic systems. A step ahead, we should see that value 31 is equal to the 31 transcendental components of the structural components of the hypercube 3 cube, representative regular body of a 3 space, 8 corner points, 12 edges, 6 surfaces, 1 volume, and 3 axes and 1 origin, makes it 31. Therefore, this value 31, which is Ek Shahishtra, means 1000, means Shahishtrakash, 1000 spaces, means Anantakash, infinitely infinite space, Asht Prakriti, eightfold nature, value 29, presided by Lord Brahma, a four-head Lord with a pair of eyes in each head. Lord Brahma is the creator, the supreme, presides over the Asht Prakriti, eightfold nature. All our manifested creations range is as of Asht Prakriti, and then this Asht Prakriti expansion is of the Vyavarat Brahm, which is the designation of Krishna Dvapayan. So Maharishi Ved Vyas in its 28th fold as Krishna Dvapayan leads us to the Vyavarat Brahm. How these formulations ultimately are related to value 31, as we know 29 as a dimension leads to 21, 31 as a domain. Further we know 29 and 29, a pair of dimensions lead us to value 31. Therefore, one shall sit comfortably and make one's full expression of the comprehension of these formulations, their features, in the light of the setup of hypercube 3, the representative regular body of a 3 space, with the further see that it is going to be a synthesis of a pair of linear order transcendence ranges which leads to value 31. It becomes a transcendental carrier, and it is going to be a transcendental carrier along the Sthapatya miring rod. Further we know Sthapatya miring rod swaps 6-space domain. 6-space domain we know is enveloped within a transcendental boundary of 12 components. We know these 12 components get fixed in terms of 72 coordinates. 72 coordinates we know lead us to value 2 plus 6 plus 10 plus 14 plus 18 plus 22. These values as such are the values of the hypercubes 1 to 6. Therefore, this transcendental enveloping of our solar universe is the enveloping in terms of which we can say that 6-space is a static space, and along with it there is a transcendental carriers, means a cube as a representative regular body is being carried, and this cube when is fulfilled with the content it becomes a Sama, and Sam is of value 15, which is equal to the value of the solid dimensional frame of a 5-space. It is this fixation which deserves to be comprehended well. As such, it is desirable that we shall go very slow. Let us revisit glimpse 1, then glimpse 2, and finally reach at glimpse 3. For glimpse 3, we shall first glimpse the way the transcendental flow is from the Bindu Sarovar, from the center, and is a reach. Welcome. Today we shall be continuing ahead of up till which we reached on 10th of September as Glimpse-3 with the focus of dynamic state solar universe values format of the Dhatu part. Today we are continuing with the dynamic state solar universe values format of the Dhatu part. The focus today is going to be upon the concept of transcendental carriers. These transcendental carriers flow from Madhya Brahm, the center of the eternal Brahman domain state. Transcendental carriers are of values 9, 20, 31, 42, 53, 64, 75, 86, 97 and 108. We know value 9 is the synthesis value of -1 order, 0 order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So these are the range of 10 transcendental ranges. Now reach is going to be from -1 to 8. These are 10 steps of transcendental carriers. These 10 state of transcendental carriers to flow from Madhya Brahm. So from the center, from the middle, there is going to be flow of orders -1 to order 8. It is this state of 10 steps which deserves to be comprehended well. We know 5 space hypercube 5 is enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components. This creative boundary of 10 components as such having at its middle a seat, transcendental seat. Therefore, it is from this middle, which is a transcendental seat, as in the role of an origin. So it is this Madhya Brahm, it is from this middle that there is going to be a 10 steps long flow. So there are 10 components, if 1 to 10. These are 10 components, and we know value 10 is a reflection pair of 0, 1. It is this feature which will help us understand how there is going to be a format for the object image, or say of value +1 and value -1. -1 and +1 are of the format of one space as a domain and -1 space as dimension. Therefore, -1 space as dimension is going to be the transcendental carriers flow from the first creative component. Now, -1 as a dimensional order leads to a transcendence range, and it's a synthesis with itself, with transcendental glue -1 will lead to value 9. This format 0, 1 and 1, 0 is of 11 value, and therefore, so here the value is 9, then that becomes value 20 plus 11 so it becomes 31, and ultimately we reach at value 108. Therefore, these transcendental carriers, 10 transcendental carriers. So we are in 5 space with a creative boundary of 10 components, and each component at its middle is having a transcendental seat which leads to a transcendental carrier, and this way there are going to be as many as 10 transcendental carriers. These 10 transcendental carriers, as these are of values -1 order to 8 as an order. Therefore, these transcendental carriers are of a reach up till value 8, means 8 space, which accepts 6 space as a dimension and 4 space as a dimension of dimension. As such, the creative boundary component, that is 4 space in the role of a boundary, when strips off, and then it dimensionalizes the outer space as a 6 space, which is of the dimensional order of 8 space. It is this feature that we are having 10 directional frame, which are ultimately going to be the dynamic flow states, and these 10 dynamic state flow become ultimately the dhatu ganas. Therefore, to appreciate the organization of a dhatu gana as of 10 ganas, and then there are also going to be an additional gana which is the 11th. So in this way, this feature, this organization base deserves to be comprehended well. One shall sit comfortably and to recapitulate, revisit, re-evaluate, reconsolidate all these features. Now we see that here 5 space remains in a state prior to the state of it's being enveloped within a creative boundary. Now this creative boundary are 10 components. It dimensionalizes the outer space as a 6 space, and there are 10 creative boundary components leading to 10 transcendental carriers. Now these 10 carriers, when this 4 space is dimensionalizing outer space as a 6 space, then at the middle is being carried a 5 space value. It is this value which becomes a transcendental carriers. So these are 10 transcendental carriers leading up till 8 space setup. Now we know 5 space itself is a solid order space. Therefore, from the setup of a solid order state, we reach at a creative order state. Therefore, at present, when we are glimpsing transcendental base of Vedic knowledge, and in the first phase we were focusing at the lively transcendental state prior to manifestation. So it is this lively transcendental state prior to manifestation, and it is of a solid order. Now when it manifests a creative boundary of 10 components. This creative boundary of 10 components, when strips off, then it dimensionalizes the outer space as a 6 space. So it is this a reach from static state to a dynamic state. We have to reach from static state to a dynamic state. Therefore, it is this phenomenon, it is this feature, it is this set of values, it is this format which is a lively format of the dhatu part. The dhatu part is a manifested state of values which in its dynamic state go transcendental. Therefore, we know 6 space is enveloped within a transcendental boundary of 12 components. Therefore, it is this state of 5 space reaching as a transcendental boundary which becomes the ultimate attainment. It is this attainment which takes us to the setup of 960 cubes enveloped for a solar universe. We know 6 space is having a creative dimensional order, 4 space is playing the role of dimension, and then it is enveloped within a transcendental boundary. So 5 space is playing the role of boundary, and there are as many as 12 transcendental boundary components. Further, we know that 5 space itself is enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components. A raised to power 5 is to 10 b raised to power 4. Further, we know that 4 space itself is enveloped by a solid boundary of 8 components. Now this a raised to power 4 is equal to 8 b raised to power 3. It is here where we reach at 8 multiplied by 10 by 12 is equal to 960. So it is a setup of 960 cubes which envelop this solar universe, and it is in a dynamic state. It is this dynamic state of the setup of a solar universe which is being worked out, which is being changed, and which is being processed in terms of the dhatu part. Therefore, the sadhakas shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to see as to how this solar universe in its dynamic state is being covered in terms of the format of 9060 cubes envelope of the solar universe. Let us further have a pass. We have to proceed for this coverage in terms of Ganita Sutras, beginning with Ganita Sutra 1, which is of 16 letters setup and is of 75 as TC value. Value 75 we know is the 9th transcendental carrier. This 9th transcendental carrier will be taking us to a value beginning with 5 space in the role of a dimension. So 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 is the transcendence range of a order 5, transcendental order, and its reach is at the Brahman base. So reach from transcendental order for the Brahman base, which means if we are having a range of 1 to 5, then we get 5 at its middle placement. So it is this Madhya Brahm which is the concept, which is the phenomenon, and this in fact is the beginning format, processing format of Ganita Sutra 1 itself. Now this Ganita Sutra 1 with a value 75 parallel to synthesis of a pair of transcendence ranges of order 5 with a reach at a 9 space as a base. From here, when we will transcend ahead to Ganita Sutra 2, it will take us to 28 letters. Therefore, we have to reach from letter 16 to letter 28. One thing, and the second step is we have to reach from 75 to 107. Once we are reaching at 107, that means we are just a one step prior to the 10th transcendental carrier. It is this 10th transcendental carrier which deserves to be comprehended well. One is to revisit. Now it is this revisit which will bring in the concepts of a Maya of value 14 and of Leela of value 16. Therefore, between 16 and 14, there is in between a value 15. We know it is parallel to the value of the solid dimensional frame of 5 dimensions. Further, we know it is parallel to tissue value of a Tej. Therefore, in this way, the in between is going to be that Udasin. It is that neutralized state of value 14 plus 16 is equal to 30, and we know 30 is the value of a formulation samhita. And further we know that values range 1 to 30 leads to 60 factors, means this value duplicates itself. And still further we know that 30 accepts 28 in the role of a dimension, and the range of values 1 to 30 gives 60 factors, and value 1 to 28 gives 56 factors. It is this phenomenon, it is this feature which deserves to be comprehended well, as that the value 28 means the Brahm duplicates itself of its own, and its samhita as well duplicates itself. It is this self-duplication of the Brahm and its samhitas which brings us face to face with the Udasin state, the neutralized state between the Maya and a Leela. So, from Maya to Leela, in between, there is a state which is Udasin state, and it is this Udasin state means Ut Asin, means we have to place ourselves, seat ourselves upward, means at a upward, means from the middle, from the Madhya Brahm, we have to transcend ahead. It is this transcendence from the middle which will take us to the Udasin state, because here is a value 5 which is of a solid order, and it leads to value 15, and we know 15 is half of this total value 30, and simultaneously it is the summation value of a Maya and a Leela. It is this phenomenon, it is this feature which is to be revisited, and from here we can see that the Srimad Bhagavad Gita begins with its chapter 1 as of 47 shlokas, and it is this value 47 which is a value of 19 plus 28, and it is going to be the value of a Madhya Brahm. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavad Gita is the scripture which enlightens us about the Madhya Brahm beginning, and how from the Madhya Brahm there happens to be a flow of the Dhatu part, and this Dhatu part takes us parallel to the dynamic state of our solar universe. Therefore, the sadhakas shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be face to face with this state of dynamic reach in terms of the dhatu part. So, from static state to a dynamic state is a reach. It is effectively reached, it is efficiently reached, it is precisely reached, it is mathematically reached by the Vedic systems. So, dhatu part is trier of the fruits of Vedic systems, Vedic mathematics, which provides us each and every step for the chase of the dynamic state of our solar universe. Therefore, the Vedic systems deserve to be visited with a clear insight as that in terms thereof we will be going parallel to the dynamic state of our solar universe. From here we will begin with the next phase and stage of glimpsing as to how the Vedic systems are having a chase of dynamic state as well as of static state simultaneously along the format of a Sthapatyamay rod presided by Lord Vishnu, the overlord of sixth space, while its Mayor is presided by Lord Brahma, Creator the Supreme. And along this format there is a transcendental flow. This transcendental flow is in a dynamic state, and this transcendental flow itself also manifests the static state. So manifestation of a static state and its transcendence into dynamic state is the phenomenon for which we have to be face to face, as it is in terms thereof that we will be reaching the middle neutralized state of Maya and a Leela. So the sadhakas remain in a neutralized state as Madhya Brahm between the Maya and a Leela. Thank you very much.